had been enough to waken it. The ant stretched out. "We've done it," Sir Michael cried, his eyes winding. "Here, you're free." The huge ant unfolded. All the light in the chamber was bolted out as the giant fingers searched the ant. Was all around the scientist. He let out a thin scream of delight, which in an instant turned to terror as they realized what was about to happen. The hand closed on him and crushed him. Sir Michael must died horribly in the gap of the creature. He had survived all of his life, and the reactor pushed behind its limit disintegrated. A blinding, searching, fantastic light burst out as bright as the sun itself, the light of an atomic explosion. A huge mushroom cloud sprouted out of the ground. Man's most dreadful creation ran wild, spiraling upwards. It rushed towards the night sky, carrying with it enough deadly radiation to destroy half of England. But the gate was open. The vacuum had to be filled. The atomic energy recalled, drawn back into the gate that it had itself helped to open the mushroom and had risen far above the ground. But now it was pulled down again, while at the same time the smoke and deadly gases were dragged back into the chasm that had been broken between the two worlds. The creature itself was engulfed, flaring helplessly as it was stuck down like a spider in a galactic plug hole. It was trapped. It was trapped in a torrent of pure light that was swirling around and around it, was forming a whirlpool from which there could be no escape. A certain of molten red flooded across then dimmed and died away slowly. The black and white squares of the reactor floor shimmed and began to reappear. The creature was gone. The gate had been resealed 2 miles away. Richard and Matt coughed and silvering with spat out of an underground cave and reaching the bank, pulled himself to a dry land on the horizon and ripple of pink spread across the night sky as the sun began its climb over the edge of the world. As at last it was over. The man from Peru. The Times, nothing. The Daily Telegraph, nothing. The Daily Mail, nothing. The Independent, nothing. Le Monde, I don't know. It's in French. There was to be something somewhere. Matt and Richard were sitting at the kitchen table in the journalist's York flat. Each had a pair of scissors and a mug of tea. More than a week had passed since their escape from Omega One, and both of them had changed. Matt carried a scar on the side of his face, a survivor of the National History Museum, but he was looking a little less pinched and tried staying with Richard, sleeping late, watching TV, and generally doing very little, and obviously had been good for him. As for Richard, he was more optimistic, more organised. He still found it hard to believe that he had actually survived, and he was certain he was about to tell the greatest story ever. written, it wouldn't just be a case of old the front page. His story would run on every page. They were surrounded by newspapers and magazines that they had checked through from first page to last. They had done this every day, and always it was the same. How many more do we have to read? Matt asked. I can't believe this is happening, Richard said. I mean, there must be a mention of it somewhere. You can't even nuclear explosion in the middle of Yorkshire without somebody noticing. You're not you're not that clipping from the Yorkshire Post, or so Richard plucked a scrap of newspaper off the fridge door, where it had been held in place with a magnet. 2 column inches about a bright light seen over the woods near Lesser Malling. A bright light that was there, call it, and they stick it on page 3 next to the weather reports. For the past 7 days, Richard had been monitoring the news in the press, on the radio, and on the television. He was completely wild. It was as if nothing out of the ordinary had ever taken place. Stretching energies were still investigating the damage done to the National Museum. Millions of pounds worth of dinosaur fossils had been described, but nobody had mentioned Professor Sanjay David, who must surely have been found dead in the middle of it. It likewise the death of or disappearance of Sir Michael Mass, where was a man who had once been an influential government scientist who had received a knighthood, yet there were no obituaries, no comment, nothing. He might as well have never existed. And what of Richard's story? He had written it in the space of 24 hours to start with. He had let it smile, confining it to 10 pages, outlining very broadly what had happened. Matt had inserted that his name be left out. He know that he had done, but he still wasn't quite sure how he had done it. And the truth was, he didn't want to know. He had finally managed to find the power to stop the knife and to break out, but he remembered very little of it. One moment he was lying on the slab, the next he was fighting Miss Deverill over the acid bath. What had happened was like a hideous dream. It was as if he had been taken over. As far as Matt was concerned, he never wanted to mention Jane Deverill or Ravensgate again, and he suddenly didn't want to end up on the front page of a world's newspaper, some sort of superhero, some sort of freak. In the end, Richard had agreed to give him a false name. It was the easiest way. He didn't mention the Leaf Project either. It would have made it too easy to identify Matt, and anyway, it was something else Matt didn't want to see in point. The 10-page story had been sent to every newspaper in London. That had been 3 days ago. Since then, half of them had written back. Dear Mr. Cole, the editor wishes to thank you for your submission received on 4th of May. We regret, however, that we do not feel it is suitable for publication. Yours sincerely. All of them were more or less the same short, and to point they didn't give any reason for turning him down. They simply didn't want to know. Matt know that Richard was frustrated and angry. He hadn't expected people to believe everything he had written. After all, a lot of it was beyond belief, but at the same time, somebody must have been asking what had happened at the museum. And at the power station, there was a giant crate in the woods where Amiga 1 had once stood. Laser Malling was on empty. How could an empty village simply disappear overnight? Were 100 questions hanging in the air, and Richard's article provide at least some of the answers. Why did nobody want to publish it? There was also an unspoken worry between the two. Matt knew that he was living a borrowed time. Miss Devil was dead, and any minute now the authorities in London would take note of the fact that she had disappeared. So, yeah, that she had disappeared. Subscribe to Bell Like, thank you. Click on main screen, thank you very much.